Hello and welcome to The Crux. I'm your host, Adrian Hill, and today I'm super excited to be joined by someone who decided to wear a matching shirt to me, which is always a nice addition to the podcast. Welcome. And my guest today I've known for a little while. I'm really impressed with his career journey to date, and he's sort of been at the forefront of setting up and scaling some of the world's largest partner programs that are happening right now. So today I'm extremely delighted to be joined by Eduardo Speedy Gomes. Speedy, welcome to the show.
Speedy, you had to throw that in.
I did.
I did use a matching shirt because you told me we're going to be singing. We're going to be doing a piece at the end of it. Is that still happening?
Yeah. We're going to do our dance number after this. So just stay on the call
Very
after
good.
we finish recording. But why don't we start? Obviously, you've got many nicknames, but I know you really wanted me to touch on the Speedy nickname and where that came from. Why don't you share with the viewer where that was established from?
Are you sure you want me to share it? Because that would embarrass you a little.
No, I always like to pass the baton across to my guests and allow them to really fulfill and build up their own background and their stories.
Oh well, for those that don't know Adrian, he's a very keen go-karting expert. He's just a beast in the go-karting race. And then when we met, we had this Christmas. I think it was a Christmas.
I think it was a
type of.
Was it a Christmas or like a retreat? Wasn't it?
Yeah, it was something like that. No, actually, that was the second part. But the first year was I think it was just me, you, Austin, and Brian. And that was the first time I've ever done go-karting. Remember that? And you guys were all experts and you've done it so many times. And
I've never seen someone go so slow on a go-kart track.
Exactly. Like old man Gomes. And then you guys are just spinning around me. It's like, I think you probably did 3 laps on me. And at the end of it, everyone was just laughing and making fun of me, right? But that was the start. And then the following year, we did it again. That's when we did the retreat, right? There's a lot more people in the race. We went to a different go-karting place. I think it was Slideways, right? There was the indoor.
Slideways on the Gold Coast.
Yeah. And then because I knew I was very slow at the first time, I called myself Speedy Gomes. It's from Speedy Gonzalez. And thinking that I would do very badly as I did before. But it turned out that I beat you.
You did. Yep, you definitely did. You beat me. I was crashed and held up in a pile of tires, and you went speeding past me to claim the checkered flag.
That is what you tell people, right? But I was just better. I was just faster than you were.
Just better. You were just faster.
I remember vividly passing, and I was like, "Oh, I've passed Adrian," and I was like, I'm so focused to try getting to the end line, and then claim the victory.
You did.
And I did it, man.
And you haven't let me
know why
down.
You want to tell that story?
That was 7 years ago, and it's still the first thing you mention every single time we speak. So I'm really happy for you. Of course.
I'm all about the claim to fame.
Absolutely. Well, I'm really excited to have you on the show, Eduardo. Obviously, you've got a lot of experience.
Thank you.
And you're someone that you really immerse yourself in the roles that you take, and you really do a lot of research and try to become the best possible version. So I'm really excited to chat with you today. I know the listeners are going to get a lot of value from it, but why don't we I like to start at the top and sort of explain to the listener how you managed to end up into a partnership role throughout your.
Yeah, well, thanks for that. You're very kind with your comments. I don't know how true that is, but I do tend to throw myself into the role and try learning as much as I can about whatever I'm doing. Sometimes thinking a bit more deeply than I should, but I can't help myself. I just go in and try learning as much as I can about everything and every piece of it. I think the way it was kind of your fault, I think, what got me in. Thinking back, right? So, at Go One, but first of all, I was in sales at Go One, and one day I got a call from one of the founders saying, "Hey, don't you know you've got to be at this place, this partner of ours, and then you're starting your secondment there?" And I'm like, "What?" And I'm like, "Oh no!"
So for the viewers at home, I did actually second Eduardo to one of our partners for 6 months and didn't tell him until the day that he was meant to be
Yes,
there. So yeah,
that's
continue.
right. That's right. But anyway, we did. Well, yeah. After that, we didn't talk for a year. But I'm glad we're being able to see it past that,
Yeah.
and now we're friends again.
Yep.
But I think part of the reason why you decided to put me on that role, because it was essentially the very first partner, right, of Go One at the time, and it was a little bit more complicated. Well, probably not the best way to start a partner channel as well. From in hindsight, I think I would not have done that, but it was a really good experience. But I've been known to be like a guinea pig, right? The nickname for me and Barry, chief guinea pigs. Whenever there's something new, something experimental, always putting my hand up because I just like learning new things, and it was I just like staying stimulated. And after a few years selling a point solution like Go One was, I was getting a little bit bored. So anyway, so I did the secondment. We helped set up a first reseller at a time. It was full reseller, white label solution. And I quite liked the experience, right? Because I was able to tap into a lot of my experience before Go On, because I worked in training, did a bit of consulting and coaching for many, many years. I love marketing. I love sales enablement. I like thinking, how you bring two products together. I really like going deep into, getting two solutions to kind of work together and create something unique. So I quite like the experience. So I did that for about 4 months, and that sort of stayed in the back of my head for a year. So I went back to sales for another year, and again I was getting bored. Go On was beginning to invest more in channel. And yeah, I thought, let me give it a crack, because I knew the company direction, or what was going to be important for Go One was to set up distribution channels. Was always the play, right? Being a point solution with a very well defined sort of value proposition, being a content library, right? And the fact that the LMS wasn't being developed to be an enterprise level LMS.
Yep.
The next step up for me in sales would be enterprise sales. I really didn't believe that was the right move, because I thought that at the time, the company wasn't really ready for enterprise, and the way to get into those big accounts would be through partners, right? So rather than trying to make the product work for a very large company, knowing that it is an off-the-shelf solution, right? To me, it made a lot more sense to start investing in building those partnerships and building or sort of facilitating, the two teams or two companies coming together to build a solution that would allow us to tap into bigger organizations without actually having to develop the product, which wasn't the goal of the company in the first place.
Yeah.
So to me, was a way of getting exposure to different sort of technology, work with other vendors, and do something more fun and interesting. And so I've started in partnerships. It was sort of like from the day that I spoke with one of the founders to the day I started in partnerships was like a week, right? It's like, yeah, you don't want to do this anymore. We need someone here. Happy for you to do that, because we think that you're going to be good, considering the way you think about creating win-win solutions, blah, blah,
Yep.
blah, blah, blah. And I never looked back. So I kind of, I felt the role was definitely, that definitely ticked a lot of boxes for me. It kept me stimulated. And from the day I joined partnerships to the day I left Go One, I was involved in so many different kinds of partnerships. And what I mean by that is, like, we had, referrals, co-sellers, resellers. We had partnerships. They were more product-centered partnerships, so improving product functionality and so on. So I was, super grateful and lucky to have been involved in the very early days, and to be able to spread myself across a bunch of types of partnerships, nice. and get that exposure. And here I am talking too much.
Yeah.
Am I getting off track?
So what you're saying is you're actually grateful that I seconded you for those 6 months, and it really pointed you in a different direction.
That's not what I'm saying, but yes, I am.
Like,
I'm
no,
kind of saying
no,
that.
I think, no, I
Yeah.
think, from a serious point, I think you have highlighted the reasons why that decision was made early. You are very good at adapting to new situations. You have a very logical brain. You're able to take on board a challenging situation and be able to, I suppose, piece a solution together, which is a really attractive quality for, for someone, filling this partnership space, because it is a role unlike your traditional sales roles of demo product, close, move on. There is a lot of strategic elements in setting up these partner programs. And I
A
suppose,
lot.
you've been a part of the Go One journey moving through, and more recently you've moved into a lot more of a consultative, partner sales consultative avenue, and setting up new channel strategies. So what are some things that what's some advice that you would give for people to consider when starting a new partner program?
Yeah, well, that's really a good question, right? So, and I think that's an important topic to touch on as well. Because during my time at Go One, I've worked with so many vendors, and I've been approached for roles in other organizations where, the CEO or whoever I was talking to, I didn't really have a clear vision for what they wanted to achieve. They just saw what Go One was doing and say, "Hey, we'd love to do that. Go One is killing it. It's partnering with everybody. It's crushing it." But without having stopped and think about and having taking all the necessary considerations. I don't even know if that's the right way of saying my Brazilian English that fails me at times. But I think I've actually I've developed a little checklist, and that is actually a big checklist. But I mean, high level. I think before you even invest in starting a partner program, I'm going to read some of these questions here because I think that that would be a better way of me not forgetting any. But right from the start, and this could be perceived as a bit basic, but it's not, because from my experience, it doesn't. Founders may not think enough about the purpose and objectives of what they're trying to achieve, and it's simply thinking about. And we had a lot of experiences where we will partner with someone, and then straight up they're like, "Oh, how can we leverage your brand, to push my product? How can you send us leads, right?" And I always went back to and said, "Well, it just doesn't really work like that. What we're trying to do here is this. Like, let's just think this through, right?"
Yep.
So I think a few questions that the person could ask, right? Well, whoever is thinking about starting a program is, first of all, why now? Why is partnership important for you right now? So what are some of the specific objectives you are aiming to achieve? And most importantly, have you thought about what a potential ideal partner would be for you? The funny thing is that some companies are very, very early in the journey, and they haven't even defined the ideal customer profile, and they're already thinking about partnering, right? Which to me, it's not a very wise decision.
It's really important.
Because part of identifying.
I just want to stop you there, because it is a really important element. I think a lot of people want to start a partner program and they jump straight to their IPP. Who is their ideal partner profile? But they need to establish first who their ideal customer profile is, and then who they're partnering with. And that's when you can start to build a holistic approach. So yeah, sorry to cut you off, but it's a super
important point. No. You're spot on, and thanks for reinforcing that. It's sort of like it's really backwards to think about partners before you think about your customers, right? Because in the process of defining your ideal partner profile, right, you have to consider, well, what sort of organizations are working with my ideal customer profile?
Correct.
They have solutions that do not compete with mine, that I could potentially, or my product could potentially be adding value to. And think about the customer journey, right? Like, customer will go and buy this product first, and this product, and this product, right? With Go On was fairly simple. It was also easy to handle that objection, give us leads back. Very hard to do, right? Because we were like the last piece of the puzzle. And it was very clear up front to say, look, we are that last piece of the puzzle. You've got the HR in place, you may have an LMS in place, and then we come in. Or you've got the HR, we'll come in with the LMS. And so it's usually, or it tends to be, the last piece of the puzzle. So I think you're understanding your ideal customer profile, understanding how your solution fit with somebody else. And then from there, starting to think about, what are some of the potential commercial models that you are willing to invest or entertain, right?
Yep.
Are you going to go down the reseller route, or are you going to go down more of an affiliate or referral? Are you gonna set up the way you work with partners in a more of a co-seller type of arrangement where you are selling together? I think that's really important to define because, setting up a reseller, as we've learned, it's a lot more complex. It requires a lot more time, not just to set them up and get the reseller up to speed with selling the product, understanding how to pitch, having all the training materials, because we have to remember you've got a reseller selling a product, and then you train, I don't know, 5 reps, and they become really good at it, and then 4 of them leave, right? And then they hire another 4, right? How are you going to get those other 4 up to speed and to the level of? So I think really important to consider the complexities of each model. Obviously, an affiliate model is the simplest, which is more of a referral type of model. I've learned a lot about affiliate or referral models, looking at, like the traditional affiliate marketers. Like when you think about people, this is like the internet marketers that put products together that did extremely well and sold millions.
Yep.
And they did that by selling through affiliates. Like when you go and study some of those players, right, you learn a lot about the pieces that you need to put together from an enablement point of view, right? So they tend to come up with videos and sales collateral, 1-pages, FAQs, marketing copy, it's landing pages, right? So
and are you talking about the likes of, like the Frank Kerns and these sort of type, these affiliate marketers? Yeah.
Well, not necessarily about Frank, but I'm familiar with his work. Anyway, so I kind of took the tangent there a little bit, but I think, sort of thinking through the commercial model, and starting to think about the legal side of things as well. Very important to have a really good contract in place or a partner agreement in place. Also think through, what's your criteria when selecting and vetting potential partners. Not everyone is right for you, should be right for you. I think you got to think about the fact that everyone that partners with your organization is an extension of your organization. So you're partnering with the wrong company, you could potentially be damaging your brand. And if you're thinking short term, I just want to get leads, right, it will backfire, right? So thinking through potentially how you qualify, select, and vet potential partners, really important. There's a bunch of other stuff here, but I mean, like another one is, what resources are you willing to allocate to the partner program? Like think financial, human, and technical. A good example from a technical standpoint, right, which is the most relevant, I think one of the most relevant for SaaS, is I've seen vendors trying to set up a ecosystem without having public APIs, right? It's very hard, right? So you want to have a bunch of products connecting to yours, or you want to say you've got an ecosystem, but you don't have a public API or an easy way of getting partners educated on how to integrate with your product, right? You don't have a team supporting that. So again, very important to think through the whole journey and then break it down into pieces and say, what do we need to do from partner development all the way to when the partner is firing and continue to fire, because once you enable a partner, they start generating revenue or start generating leads, you start working really well together with them, what happens next, right? How do you keep them engaged? How do you keep refreshing the offer, the message, and so on?
Yep.
There's a bunch of other stuff, but
no, that's a tremendous list, because there's so many things there that people don't understand. And I suppose, I was speaking with someone the other day who they treat the partnership channel like a business unit. It should be its own business unit, and it should,
totally.
If you're launching a new business, you should have that entrepreneurial mind and spirit to be able to launch the partner program like you would a new business. And it's factoring in all those different areas that you've just highlighted and touched on. And you did mention there was a few different sorts of commercial arrangements or partnerships in place. Can Can you just briefly touch on those in a little bit more detail? You mentioned your affiliates and your resellers. What's been, for those starting getting into their partner program, would you have any advice for those to start in a certain area to help gain that early traction?
Yeah, well, I think it really depends on the company and where they are in the journey. And what the founders are more technical founders, right? Product people, they just want to build integrations. They want to bring other products in. And again, like the go-to-market strategy as well, right? Because some companies will they go more down the route of a product-led type of approach, right? So actually allowing you to how do I explain this? Having elements of another product that you sell as part of the journey in a way that your team is used to or comfortable with, right? And what I mean by that is, like, if you want to set up a reseller with somebody, you've got to understand how the partner works, like how the organization functions, right? What sort of sales process they have in place. How quickly do they turn around the sale? What's the sales cycle like? Is it like a week? Is it a month? Is it 3 months and 4 months? I think all of that needs to be factored in.
Yep.
But I don't think I've answered your question there. I sort of took a tangent as I tend to do. But I would say I would refrain from starting with resellers. That's my advice, unless it made a lot of sense because your product is amazing and you've got all the building blocks in place and it's easy to sell, right? If it's a transactional sale, maybe you should go down that path. You just got to understand that setting up resellers will require more resources, right? So you're going to have to invest a little bit harder. If you kind of over the fence and you're thinking about, I just want to start and give this a crack, a referral model, I think, is the best way to start. But it's important to acknowledge that referrals are not that committed, right, to you and your brand. So you're going to need volume, right? You're going to need to sign up a bunch of referrals to see the real results, to see substantial results. And that's when partner management systems like Cruise, for example, it comes in very handy because it allows you to manage a bunch of partners with less time, right? So super important to invest in technology that will help you manage the process a bit more efficiently. And then, and just to connect the two, right? Sorry, I'm just going to put. So there is a third way of working with partners where you are co-selling it, right? So essentially, it could allow partners to contract in their own paper, but have a lower revenue share, and start off, like you may start off as a reseller, the best referrals, you can move them into more of a closer collaboration co-seller, and then get your sales teams working with the partner to get them up to speed and ready to sell fully as a pure reseller, if that makes sense. So you could sort of take the partner on a journey, as opposed to overcommit in the early days and then having to support that.
And that's probably an example of what you did early with the secondment. It was working closely with those sales teams. And then I know Go1 did that on a select few other occasions with different partners down south as well. It can be quite an effective way of building and maintaining relevancy with these partners, because you're right about the referrals. You do need a lot of them because they're not, they might have several different referral partnerships in place. So you need to ensure that you're staying relevant with them at all times. And then that sort of leads me on to sort of the referral model, the commercialized model of referrals. And obviously there's a few different ways that you can structure that with regards to commissions and how that's all paid. Can you talk the listener through, what are some of the different structures? Is it lineal? Is it tiered? Those sort of different areas.
Yeah, well, I think the traditional, the simplest model is to just decide on a revenue share that you're comfortable with and the partner is comfortable with as well. You could start as little as, I don't know, 10% revenue share for deals that were converted, right? So introductions that were converted into sales. And you could add in some incentives or accelerators, right? For the partners that are really trying to really keen to invest more, right?
Yep.
And believe that they could bring you more revenue. So rather than setting in on a promise, yep, we can deliver X amount of revenue. Maybe don't start with the higher revenue, start with the basic, whatever, 10%, and then insert some accelerators into the agreement. So let's say if you hit a particular revenue mark, then you get 15%. If you hit another mark, then maybe you get 20%, right? That could be a way of ensuring that the partner will commit and will be incentivized for performance, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if I answer your question,
No,
but
that was
I think
yeah,
that works really well.
yeah, absolutely. It's the best way. I mean, and it is the best way to continually incentivize for further referrals coming in the door. It's not just a linear approach. It is a tiered approach in a way. And because I know I have in the past set up partner programs that have a tiered approach from the outset. So if you come in and depending upon your level, you get X percentage of revenue share. Have you ever set up a partner program where partners are compensated for leads, or is it solely been based on closed deals?
Yeah, so solely on closed deals, and I think that should be the approach. Otherwise, you're just getting, yeah, it's similar to like hiring an SDR team, right? But SDRs, they are incentivized on leads, but you gotta be careful with the quality there, right? My personal opinion is that I wouldn't recommend it. And another thing that is super important to think about, right, is that let's say if it's a referral program, your sales team needs to be excited about the partnership as well, right? So let's say you sign up somebody that is sending a bunch of really bad quality leads, it will turn them off very quickly, right? They're going to see a lead coming in from a partner, it's like, I don't want to deal with this, right? And they're not going to want to deal, they're not going to put the attention that is needed. And if you feel like the partnership is worth investing, you're just not at a time when the partner fully understands that they need to bring us better quality leads, then it will be that will sit on your back, right? So you're going to have to deal with those leads yourself.
Yeah,
so
and that's
the reason why I don't think it's a good idea.
And that touches further on what you said before. Partners are an extension of the brand of your company and your sales team. So if they're not bringing in the quality of lead that you'd expect, then you've got to, as you said, much like companies do with customers. There comes a time sometimes where companies have to actually fire their customers because they're just not the right fit. And there comes a time, 100%. Unfortunately, in some partner journeys where that is the case. And so I suppose then, you did touch on it as well, the support required for each of these different tiers, and the referral side. Is there much support, or is there any sort of feedback you could give? I'm just sort of putting a new SaaS founder's hat on. They're looking at different go-to-market strategies, and they want to invest in a partner program. What is some of the the low-cost support materials or individuals that they could have to really expedite that initial growth in that go-to-market strategy?
Yeah, well, again, depending on the model and depending on the mutual value proposition, right? Like, for example, if you were to build an integration with another product, right? You've got to support the integration, and the partner also has to support the integration. So having technical support staff and engineers that understand the integration, having the documentation, right, publishing and clear if something happens, and who do you go to, the escalation points, SLAs, support process, very important to put that in place once the integration is built. But from a simple referral standpoint, right, it's more about sales and marketing enablement, right? So sales enablement, big time. How I think the way to think about that is like, how do I train a new AE or a new BDR to identify the best opportunities? Hence why defining the ICP is so important. I think if you think about that, and you don't need to go crazy and just build something only for partners. Like, if you think about how do you best enable your sales team with all the tools they need to succeed, you just think of the partner as an extension of your sales team. You use similar resources, but you just customize them to the partner, right? There's a lot of, I think it's very valuable to train partners on asking the right questions, right? How do you run a good discovery to identify
Perfect.
the right opportunity, when to introduce us to a client, right? So those sort of things, early stage, very similar to how you would enable a salesperson working for you. And marketing. So I think one area that is overlooked is what happens after you launch the partnership. So you put a lot of time into the kickoff, into sales enablement, and you launch, and you get results, right? Because you're launching it, you're making a bit of noise in the market, right? But then after the launch, everything goes down, right?
Yep.
So super important to think through the first 12 months. So, right, say, what can I do to keep this partner engaged? And that's when marketing comes in. It's like, is that campaigns that we could be running with this partner? Like the way I thought about that is like, well, I put my partners into buckets, in segments, and I understood who they sold to, right? I understood what the integration did, and say, all right, so if I'm running a campaign to local government, for example, I'll take that. Or if the company is running a campaign, I'll take the assets and I'll take the whatever the copy, newsletter, materials, thought leadership piece, white papers, whatever. I'll take that to a selected number of partners that I know sell to that particular client profile, and sort of like segmenting your portfolio, and then sort of thinking through what sort of marketing initiatives could I take to a partner that would resonate best with them, because I understand who they sell to.
Amazing. Yep.
I think it's really important. There was something I was going to say that I just forgot now. But anyway.
No, that's all right.
So again,
yeah.
The ICP, sorry, I know we're running out of time, but I mean, super important. Understand yours, but understand the partners as well, right? Because otherwise you're just going to alienate your partner by bringing things that are not going to be relevant to them.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, that was fantastic. And I think it just further highlights why you're the master, Eduardo, at this, because you do put a lot of you do put a lot of thought and strategic imperative into understanding how to effectively structure this. And I think it's an oversight for a lot of people coming into a partner program. This is a business model, run it as such, and you'll see the results through the long term. So yeah, I am just conscious of time. I'm greatly appreciative for jumping on the call on this podcast
Likewise.
today. It's been an absolute pleasure to sit down and sort of extract some of that knowledge from that very knowledgeable brain of yours.
You're so kind. You're so kind. If I could just say one more thing, right? That again, it's often overlooked, and it shouldn't be. It's like, if you're really committed to delivering the best possible customer experience to your clients, right? You're going to think very, very hard about the kind of organization that you introduce to your clients, right? So I think when you do that together with a partner, and an example of that is when I joined partnerships, that I jumped into integration calls where our team wasn't even looking at the other product. I'm like, dude, you've got to understand how the other product works. You've got to understand how we fit in. You got to understand how you create the best possible journey for somebody using this integration. So I think very, 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 very important. Think about the customer journey, and think about how you align with the customer journey, the partner's customer journey, and understand that really, really well. And once you do that, once you understand that, then you would know exactly what to position to that partner to get the best possible results.
Amazing. Yeah, no, that's fantastic, Eduardo. I really appreciate your time. I'll share all your details underneath this this recording when I release it. But yeah, I wish you all the best, and thanks again for jumping on the podcast. Don't forget to follow Crux PRM on LinkedIn or cruxhq.com to register as a guest.